ahead and call the meeting to order. Before we stand for the pledge, I want to introduce our student who's going to be leading the pledge for us tonight. We have Jamison Parkhurst with us. He's a first grade, or he finished up his first grade year at Otis Elementary in Mrs. Freeman's class, and his parents are Jacob and Meredith Parkhurst. So if we could all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, and Jamison will lead us.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Whoops. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Bloom.
Yes, or here.
Ms. Lehman.
Here.
Ms. Lewis.
Here.
Mr. Nally.
Here.
Mr. Price.
Here. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes from our regular meeting held May 27th, 2025, please?
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Lewis. Could I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. Bloom. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Ms. Lewis.
Yes.
Mrs. Bloom.
Yes.
Ms. Lehman.
Yes.
Mr. Nally.
Yes.
Mr. Price.
Yes, motion's approved. Moving on to our legislative report. Don.
Yes, there's quite a bit of activity going on down in Columbus right now. I had sent out the legislative report to all of you, and that report is available to the general public. Anybody want it, just by contacting the superintendent's office, and they can get a copy of the things we're talking about tonight. With the House activity, there's quite a bit going on in regards to House Bill 124 passed, and that was to modify property tax sales assessment ratio studies. And that's something that our treasurer would have to explain to us later in terms of some of, but that's on to the Senate at this time. A few of the other bills, and I'll just kind of highlight the topic, requires character education instruction, changes intra-district enrollment policies, prohibiting cell phone use in schools. Now that's passed the Senate and then has to move to the House, is my understanding at this time. And then one other is mandating a moment of silence each school day. And there's that's our representative Click is proposing that. He has someone else that's also part of that. And then there's another bill that I don't think I have down on here that's talking about enforcement of the Pledge of Allegiance in each classroom each day. And again, we've talked about that before, but that is something that we already are doing. And so it's something that we all grew up with, reciting. Also, under the Senate Finance Committee, they released their substitute version of House Bill 96 for the 26-27 state operating budget. And then they're planning on and hoping to pass an omnibus version of that, which is expected next week, with Senate passage of that from their floor is anticipated. Another House Bill Technology Innovation Committee is pushing for development of political subdivisions to adopt cyber security programs. And we all know that those are, critical in this day and age. House Bill 309 modifies county budget commission's property tax formulas. I think that was the same as different than what we had talked about earlier. And then a couple of the real key ones that are going on right now. House Bill 335 aims to reform Ohio's property tax system, impacting public school, our public schools very significantly. There's an article from our board from the OSBA journal that we had received recently. And in there's an article on School Board Members' Guide to Property Taxes. And I would suggest, reading through that, it's pretty comprehensive. There's some pieces that still left me with questions. If you have questions, I would suggest contacting our treasurer. She can either give you that answer or find what you're specifically asking about. So again, I would refer you to that to read. There's a couple real screwy things going on with that right now. When you look at the revamping of the property tax system through our legislature, you look at the initiatives that are going on in our state to propose in the future elimination of property taxes. They kind of go against what constitutionally we're supposed to be funding. And that was, now let me see. The Ohio Supreme Court ruled a funding formula that is over-reliant on local property tax is unconstitutional. Now, it all sounds good. The problem, and that's why there's the effort to maintain the Fair School Funding Plan, because that kind of works around that particular issue somewhat, so that we're not totally relying on property tax. However, when we look at the push that we're getting from the state, there's more emphasis on that's going to come on us as a board to seek property taxes when we have shortages, because we are not going to be getting those dollars from the state. And where that really comes in, and you'll see that in the third article here, that's from the Equity and Adequacy and Voucher Shirt Ohio's article. Dollar for dollar, because we and the charter schools and community schools are all on the same line item with the state, if a dollar goes out that is unconstitutional in the first place, if that dollar goes out, that's one less dollar that's available to our public schools. And then that's with the property tax issue, and there's a lot going on. The other thing I would share is there's an effort and legislation being proposed that talks about moving all of, I'm not sure if it's all just property taxes, but our levies to have a 60% approval for passage. And if that goes through, it's kind of somewhat of a death sentence for us as a public school, because it's very difficult to reach those levels. We've when in passing levies, we've pretty been consistently in that 51, I'll say 51% up to, into the 50s. But to reach the 60s, there's got to be something super special going on to ever pass a levy. So I guess my final comment is, let's be, very clear that currently the direction that our legislature at the state level is taking things is really an attack on our public schools. And, we are going to be fighting for our continued existence in the very near future. And, I'm a strong believer, and I think all of you are strong believers, and you can voice it yourself, strong believers in the public school system. And, to have all the dollars going out into places that really they shouldn't be, assisting with construction, with some of the charter schools. There was, I think it was initially $1 million put into a fund to help. It just contradicts the constitutionality of our public school system. So those are the key areas that I wanted to cover. But if you have any questions after you read through this, or if you have any input at this time, feel free to share. So
I think one of the big things is that sometimes people get the wrong idea for school districts, and all they're doing is wanting to take tax dollars or levy money from their community members to pay for stuff. That's not it. It's just we don't charge tuition to come to school. So the state is supposed to fund us. When the state doesn't fund us with regular tax dollars that all of us pay, I don't want to pay property taxes. I paid a sales tax on when I bought my house and property. Why should I be continuing to pay property taxes for as long as I'm living there, or wherever I own property? I have to pay property taxes. I don't like that. Nobody wants that.
right.
It's just, that's how it's set up. So to me, again, at the state level, they put the cart before the horse, and they want to change property taxes, which I get because of the valuation of property. But figure out where money is going to come to fund the schools that you're supposed to fund first, before you start saying, well, we can't afford to do this anymore. It's no different than the voucher system. Well, change the way the system is. Don't just, well, we're going to do this because it works for right now, but you're not helping the problem.
No.
So it's just, my other question was, and then anybody else could talk, sorry, but on a moment of silence every day, what was the moment of silence for? Does it say?
My guess is that it probably was meant to, I'm just guessing that it was meant to be prayer, but I believe that the people proposing that probably know that it would not pass through the House and the Senate with that definition. So,
but even with the definition of a moment of silence, I'm not sure why look, I pray, but I can do that anytime I want to. I don't need a specified time to, if I want to sit, even if I'm a student, if I'm sitting there before school starts and I want to pray, I'm just going to pray. It's not like I have to pray out loud. You don't have to designate a time for me to have a moment of silence where I do that, but
exactly.
or need permission for that. You know what I mean? Like, you don't need permission.
Don't tell me I can't pray. Oh no, I'm gonna pray whenever I want to.
For sure.
But I was just wondering when I heard that. Anyway, so
that was just my guess. That it would be difficult,
right?
But we can kind of find out that answer.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thanks. No walk-on items tonight, correct? All right. No one from the community is here, so no one is going to speak to us because there is no one in the audience except for Andrew back there running the show. So luckily we have Andrew because otherwise this would probably be a hot mess. We tried to last time, but you know, it was all right. But we do have Abby tonight, so you never know how fast it's going to go off the rails.
No pressure, Abby.
Yeah, no, none. Now, and on to Abby with the superintendent's report.
Report on behalf of Mrs. Hurt. Just to let you guys know, our elementary and middle school summer program started today. We have students at Lutz in grades K to 2, and then grades 3 to 5 at Otis. And then we have grades 6 to 8 here. They're in for the next few weeks. They're going to work on reading skills and other subject areas and some social emotional activities as well. The high school will begin their credit recovery and Ohio State test tutoring next week. The elementary and middle school programs will end at the end of this month, but the high school credit recovery will go till August, mid-August. Also, just one note for the community as well. Summer meal distribution starts June 23rd. There's a big change this year, and that's families need to register weekly in order to pick up the meals. So you can go onto our website. We've sent home QR codes. You can also call the district office. We'll be happy to help you set up, but that will be a weekly thing that needs to be done. Okay. So that's a new thing for this year. We're trying to really get the word out.
Okay.
Okay. Can I go on to the recommendations then?
Yes. Yep.
All right. So our first one, we have 2 donors, Mrs. Pemberton and Jersey Mikes.
Okay. Can I get a motion to approve item 1, please?
So moved.
I did it.
Motion by Ms. Lehman. Could I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. Bloom. Any discussion?
Just went to Jersey Mike's, bought my sub, made a donation. You know, I talked to one of the new owners, and very nice person, and he's got a really neat business head, and really seems to have that commitment to our community, which is really nice. And obviously, the nice thing too is that the people in our district got a sub, and made a donation to the to $2,000 plus. So I think that's really neat.
Yep.
So hopefully all businesses try to do that. That'd be kind of a neat thing. Thank you.
All right. Roll call, please.
Ms. Lehman,
Yes.
Mrs. Bloom. Yes. Ms. Lewis,
Yes.
Mr. Nally,
Yes.
Mr. Price.
Yes, motion's approved.
Number 2 is a contract with NoECA. This is our computer programming system that we use. This is an annual contract.
Okay. Can I get a motion to approve item 2, please?
So moved.
Motion by Mrs. Bloom. Could I have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Lewis. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Bloom. Yes. Ms. Lewis,
Yes.
Ms. Lehman,
Yes.
Mr. Nally,
Yes.
Mr. Price.
Yes, motion's approved.
Okay. Item number 3 is a contract with Terra State Community College. This last weekend, they provided us transportation for our state track athletes.
Oh, okay. Nice. Can I get a motion to approve item 3, please?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Nally. Could I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. Bloom. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Nally,
Yes.
Mrs. Bloom. Yes. Ms. Lehman,
Yes.
Ms. Lewis,
Yes.
Mr. Price.
Yes, motion's approved.
And then we have several other items coming up under staff. We have a couple of resignations. We have an appointee for next year, Mrs. Nagy. She'll be the Ross Health teacher coming in the fall. Item number 6 are some art show stipends for this past current, or I guess the current school year, or the 24-25 school year. Item number 7 are coaches for next year. Number 8, we continue on to coaches for next school year. Number 9, there are some status changes for Ms. Reinig and Mr. Wyatt. Number 10, we have some summer school program appointees, and Megan Bibler and Isaiah McDonald. They'll be over at Lutz. Number 12.
That was on our agenda, 10 is different than.
Oh,
The new position.
I apologize.
No, that's
Let me
right.
back up a minute.
Okay.
So that was item 11. Item 10 is a new position for communication facilitator. That's something we've been working on for quite a few years here in the district. Number 11 then is going to be our teachers over at Lutz. Number 12 is going to be Hannah Rios. She'll be a teacher for summer school over at Otis. Item 13 will be summer school program appointees for the high school, and Renee, Carrie, and Karen. Also, then this next one is going to be summer credit recovery. That first one is going to be for our Ohio State testing tutoring. The second part is going to be for the credit recovery, and that will go through August. And then item 14 are some substitutes for our summer programming.
Okay. Can I get a motion to approve items 4 through 14, please?
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Lewis. Could I have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Lehman. Any discussion? One quick word on the communication facilitator. Like Abby said, it's been something probably 4 or 5 years now that it's been kind of in the works. It's just, there's so much information that needs to be put out there now, and to put that added workload on a current staff member with their current job responsibilities, most school districts have a position like that. So for our community, for our district, it's going to be so much nicer to have one main person there that collects, does all that. So there's a whole lot of stuff that involves. So, and then just a shout out to Hannah Rios, who's teaching for summer, Fremont grad. She worked for me at the cookie shop. So goes to Heidelberg, is in teaching, wants to come back to Fremont to teach. So good for her to get in for the summer program and stuff like that. So good kid.
I thought she was a pretty recent graduate.
Yeah.
2 years.
Yeah.
She just finished up her second year at Heidelberg. So
Awesome.
2 years to go, and then she'll be looking for a teaching job. And I said, I told her, I saw her or talked to her, and I said, hey, her and her sister both, and said, now's the time, because we have a lot of retirees these next few years. So there will be some openings, but just good to see a Fremont grad come back, work in the summer program, want to come back and teach in Fremont. So
We're excited to have her.
roll call, please.
Ms. Lewis,
Yes.
Ms. Lehman,
Yes.
Mrs. Bloom,
Yes.
Mr. Nally,
Yes.
Mr. Price.
Yes, motion's approved.
Okay, then the last item then for Mrs. Hurt tonight is item 15, and this kind of goes on with our communication facilitator as well. This is the contract approval of Parent Square. This is a 1-year contract. This is a single communication platform. Right now we have multiple platforms that our parents of our students and our student athletes are communicated with, and we're going to, including our website, we're going to go to one common platform. Our communication facilitator will help with this. There's going to be a lot of training involved in it for some of our staff members, but it's billed as like a per pupil rate. So that price might fluctuate a tad bit every year depending on our enrollment, but it will be a 1-year contract with them.
Okay.
And more information will come out as we get going with it.
Okay. Can I get a motion to approve item 15, please?
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Lehman. Could I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Nally. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Ms. Lehman,
Yes.
Mr. Nally,
Yes.
Mrs. Bloom,
Yes.
Ms. Lewis,
Yes.
Mr. Price.
Yes, motion's approved. All right, moving on to report of the treasurer.
Good evening. This week we are wrapped up with May and moving on to June. I can't believe I'm saying that. It feels like just yesterday. We were starting at fiscal 25, but we are now wrapping up fiscal 25 and moving on, getting ready to start fiscal 26 in July. So it's exciting in the school finance world. Not so exciting as all the legislation right now. It's very big state of unknown. The professional organizations that are very knowledgeable and send us out communication on this stuff all the time. That property tax bill is huge. I know they want to revamp the real estate tax system in the state. So they are trying to wrap their heads around it, and I will report more on that as I get my head wrapped around it. It's going to be a lot there's a lot of ifs, ands, or buts, because it's not just school districts. It would be all government local government entities, townships, counties, all of it. So each one has their own specific rules. So they have to accommodate for all of that. And yeah, so it will be interesting once we get more news on that and see how it all pans out. And then that little small item of the state's budget, you know, we'll see what happens with that. The Senate's is different from the House's budget bill. So now they all get, and then also different from the governor. So everybody's got to now come together and see how they're going to hammer it all out. And that House bill on the property taxes would also come into play with that. So it will just be a fun month trying to close out year end and get ready for the new fiscal year and trying to figure out new legislation. It's my favorite thing to do. I'm sure all of you love to do it as well.
So in other words, you have an easy summer this year.
Oh yeah, super easy.
Right.
I'm gonna take lots of time off. So with that, we can move on to my one and only recommendation for tonight.
Okay.
This is our annual fund-to-fund transfer for our OFCC building projects. Every year we have to move this specific dollar amount from our permanent improvement that we receive funds into that from our levies for the building levies that we have into the specific classroom facilities maintenance fund. This fund is very specific. We can only spend it on the 6 actual school buildings, and they're very specific as to what we can spend that money on with that. So, you know, we use it to do different service contracts to make sure these buildings are kept up and running appropriately. You know, we built these great facilities, so we want to make sure they're kept up and maintained appropriately.
Can I get a motion to approve item 16, please?
So moved.
Motion by Mrs. Bloom. Could I have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Lehman. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Bloom,
Yes.
Ms. Lehman,
Yes.
Ms. Lewis,
Yes.
Mr. Nally,
Yes.
Mr. Price.
Yes, motion's approved. All right, moving on to board member communications. Don.
Yeah. I had saved one item from the legislative liaison report that I wanted to cover under board comment, and that is at our last meeting, I had brought up about the Fair School Funding Plan, the lawsuit that was going on, and in the state of Ohio. Currently, there's over 300 of our districts that are participating out of, I think there's 600 and some districts in our state. So about half right now are participating in a lawsuit to make, the lawsuit is basically to make sure that the Fair School Funding Plan continue in the future because of it being a constitutionally acceptable method of funding our schools. And what I wanted to share was I had met with Miss Parkhurst and Miss Hurt, and just kind of talked about where things are at in terms of doing participating in the lawsuit, which would be probably in that $7,000 range. And Mr. Price had caught at the last meeting that I didn't have my extra zero down on my paper, and I appreciate that. But there's a cost. Two, we kind of want to do a little bit more research as to those that are participating, kind of why, and some of the funding there, and then also what timing and content do we want to have in our resolution, because that resolution really needs to go to our legislators. And so that's something that we're working on, and then we'll continue to report back periodically until we get that straightened around and making a recommendation and discussion for participation either in or not in the lawsuit. But I talked to Mr. Phyllis, who is kind of the leader of the Vouchers Hurt Ohio and the Equity and Adequacy organization, and he kind of anticipates that they'll be up to that 500 district level, hopefully by later this summer. But I think it's something for us to follow and kind of see where things are going. So that was one of the areas that I wanted to address. Just would encourage all the kids out there on their bikes. I was going down the road today and just kind of saw, a number of kids riding their bikes, and just encourage them to be safe. And it's really not just bikes now. It's scooters, electric bikes. And I think with kids, they just have to learn early on how to control those. And probably the best place to learn that is in a parking lot or their driveway before they hit the roads. But encourage them to have a safe summer. The teachers, just want to encourage them to relax and enjoy the summer, and be prepared for our next school year, and working with our great group of kids. Graduation last week was I thought was very well organized. A lot of emotion, both from students and from the parents and support parts of our families up in the stands. It was really kind of neat seeing the entire stands filled with people. And so just that. And the final thing was just if Abby, I'm not sure who sets up the tables, but if you could take back the suggestion that we just move the tables, move our seating up about 5 feet, that gets us where we don't have to worry if that light is on or off, and puts us directly under the lights that are in this section. So just a suggestion, but I'm not sure, again, if it's the custodial staff or Gina that sets it up. Just a suggestion. And that's all I had tonight.
Sarah?
First, I just wanted to thank Megan publicly for the 5-year forecast from last meeting. I've been on the board for a few years now, and I felt like last meeting was the first time I was a lot more confident in understanding things, and you gave some just really thorough explanations from your perspective of things. So I just wanted to thank you for that. Congrats to all of our state qualifying track athletes. Fremont definitely left a thumbprint down in Columbus. Neat thing about that, I think, was that we had a lot of, the overwhelming majority of the athletes that participated not only broke school records, but broke into the top 5 of their event in the record books. I think that's pretty cool. Along with that, I think Lindy Wolf earned 13 varsity letters. Lindy just graduated last weekend, and I think she is one of 2 athletes to garner that many varsity letters. And I think both of them are females. I'm just saying. So,
Hey, now.
I'm just saying. So congratulations to all of those athletes. just also wanted to thank Mr. Bill Bray. He does such a nice job, whether it's on Facebook or just in community relations, just letting the general public know like what's going on with our athletes. All of those record book type of comments, I couldn't make those without his input on, Facebook. And it's very nice to have somebody who is invested, not just in the district alone, but definitely in the preservation of the history of athletics here in our district. So just wanted to thank Mr. Bray for what he does. Lastly, if your kid's saying neat things like, I'm bored, there's nothing to do, the Fremont Rec Center has a lot of scheduled activities going on throughout the summer. A lot of things you can just walk up and participate. So if you go on the City of Fremont's website, get to the Rec Center's page, and at the bottom, it says Summer Fun starts here. And then there's a activity calendar. If you click on the calendar, it just shows just rotating things that kids can participate in. Most of the things are at no cost to anybody who wants to participate. Different churches sponsoring events at local parks, or just different agencies or businesses around town got together. This is the first time I've seen anything like this in our community, and I think it's really cool that you can just click open this calendar and say, oh, tomorrow we're going to Roger Young to paint me a story at 10 a.m., and participate in an activity. So if you are wanting to avoid the I'm bored and participate in things around our community, that's a great resource. That's it.
Okay. Laura?
Nice. I'm going to focus on the staff. Like Don said earlier, I hope you all have a nice, relaxed summer. Get nice and recharged up for the school year. And I hope to the health and wellness, you guys are doing your water challenges. And then we can move forward and make some other challenges coming forward. Have some good prizes for that. But no, just enjoy yourselves. I know next school season is going to be here before we know it. So those that are lucky enough to be at home, just enjoy every minute you can.
All right, Lori?
Well, thank you to Jameson for his pledge. He did a good job. This is really cute. And the graduation last weekend was really, that's like the highlight, going and watching all the kids come down and get their diplomas and to be able to walk, and all the parents, how excited everybody is. And I also went to Jersey Mike's, and then I took my grandson out there, and we gave gave a donation. And I have to say, I really liked it. I mean, it was really good. So, and it's nice. It was neat. They were quick, in and out. It was quite a few people, but it wasn't overly busy. So, but yeah, and to the kids and the staff, good, have a good summer, be safe, and come back next year.
I'll kind of reiterate, thanks to Jameson for doing our pledge. That's always fun to have a student come and do that, especially in the summertime. Of course, his aunt probably forced him here, so.
I did not.
Probably.
Very nicely.
Congratulations to the track athletes that participated in state this past weekend. Like Sarah said, what a great showing for Fremont Ross to be there. What a great season both teams had. So great season for everybody there. Congratulations to our graduates. Great graduation ceremony. Perfect weather. We couldn't ask for anything better. Perfect turnout because the stands were full, and I think people were standing down without seats. So thank you to our community, the family members, for all the support that they gave our kids for graduation. And to students and staff, have a good summer. Summer weather is hopefully finally here to stay. Maybe. Fingers crossed that we don't have 60 and rainy and windy anymore. So, but no reason for executive session tonight. So with that, could I have a motion for adjournment, please?
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Lewis. Could I have a second? Second by Mr. Nally. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Ms. Lewis,
Yes.
Mr. Nally,
Yes.
Mrs. Bloom,
Yes.
Ms. Lehman,
Yes.
Mr. Price.
Yes, motion's approved. Meeting's adjourned.